Hi, everybody. My name is Jimmy Carroll. I'm the Vice President of Operations at Tech B2B Marketing, and welcome to this special episode of the Manufacturing Matters podcast, where we're recording at Schneider Electric's Innovation Summit 2025 in Las Vegas. I have the pleasure today of being joined by my friend and colleague Win Harden and Greg Magdanz, who is the VP of OEM and Robotics at Schneider. Greg, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I love being here, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. The pleasure is all ours. So I'd like to start off by asking, what are you most excited about in the OEM and robotic group and I guess here this week at the summit?
Well, I love robotics. I just think it's cool.
Yeah, everybody does.
Right? And it's a trend, obviously, we're seeing, more and more. So we love showing off what we have in that space. And really for us, it's about, really bringing customers in, showing off what we have here this week. And really the whole entire portfolio. Mm-hmm. It's not just about our robots, but it's everything Schneider has and can do for our customers, because really we touch our customers in many different ways as far as their manufacturing facilities go. They have to have power. They have to have, a lot of times, robotics. They have to have various parts of what Schneider does. And being the most sustainable company in the world, it's important for us also to help them be a lot more efficient and what we can do to help them get that way. So
yeah, and Win, I know you have a follow-up there, but I will say that I heard one of your partners yesterday outside of the Innovation Park saying, I can't believe that every product out there is actually theirs. But I guess it is, and I guess it is. And it covered a lot of different industries and product lines, and it was pretty eye-opening for me.
Yeah, it is. It's funny, when I even talk to some of my friends and family like Schneider Electric, and I'll start rattling off some of the brands that we have, and they're like, oh wow, okay. We're just about in every home in America, and every manufacturing facility in some form or fashion. So that's gonna
and 100 years doing business.
And over 100 years. Schneider itself is well over 100 years if you look at the company as a whole. And
well, that's all I can remember, because I'm 100 years old. So I only go back that far.
That's great.
Yeah, and all these products we're talking about, we haven't even talked about the IT glue that fits the software layer that keeps it all together, which is, I know, going to be a critical part of our discussion here today.
Yeah.
So
that's very true. That's where the business is going.
Yeah, 100%. That's the differentiation, right? Which is a beautiful thing. It's nice we start to see that separation between hardware and software. Just it speeds up our evolution of solutions so quickly when it's about code changes and not having to worry about respins and microchips. And although there's still a lot going on in high efficiency motors and a lot of other things Schneider's doing.
But it's amazing bringing that IT and OT convergence, whereas for many years, you guys know, it's been separate. I mean, even when you go into a customer, and a lot of times, those departments would not talk to each other. Right? And I know there was right between them, and now they have to, right? And it's amazing what's happening when that happens.
Yeah. Which also has enabled the cloud. I mean, typically manufacturers were totally resistant to that for so many years. All data must stay within the walls.
Right.
And I think, in lots of ways, and we're going to touch on robotics and AI and lots of topics today, but that connectivity component, I think more than anything, is moving manufacturing into a faster evolution than we've ever seen. Hate to use that word evolution, but we also cover AI markets and other things where the pace of change is insane, in terms of that. But manufacturing is starting to get pretty skippy on that too.
It is the next industrial revolution. I mean, it really is. It's
100%.
here. It's here on us, and it's not going to slow down. So that's the exciting part about it, right? And IT's driving it very much so these days. But they have to understand that that's part of their fabric and what they're doing as far as the manufacturer goes.
Yeah, I mean, AI is a subset of everything we're talking about here. But I attended a really excellent session yesterday on IT infrastructure for edge AI, and one of the guys on there who's had an AI role said, I feel like my job changes every 3 weeks. And
never
that's
get
just
bored.
Like, well, yeah, in a lot of ways, I suppose it does.
It's true that.
It's fun. I joke around with my director who runs my robotics center in Raleigh, and I constantly see her in there messing around with Copilot. right?
Yeah.
And a lot of our other softwares that are connected to that from a programming standpoint, right? And you're right. I mean, it's just constant, and we're continuing to work with AI. It's continuing to learn what we're asking it to go do, and it's getting better at that. So yeah, it's a fun world.
That is big time.
Indeed, yeah. And one of the places that you can see a lot of these trends and technologies like up close and personal is at the Automate show. And I know that we're at a Schneider event, and I don't want to necessarily bring up another event, but you guys made quite a splash there. It was your first Automate that you exhibited at, and you had a small town in the center of the conference floor. So I wanted to get your thoughts on what you saw there, what stuck out, what trends and technologies were most interesting, and your overall thoughts.
You know, it was really, that was a fun event for us. Obviously, we launched what we call our Schmooth campaign, if you saw that. You know, we're Schmooth Automators, so that was kind of fun.
That was pretty slick.
And we continue to build on that because what we're trying to do is really, show customers that we are in this space, that we're just not PLCs, right? We're much, much more than that. And I think what really stood out for me was, if you notice how that was laid out, we had a little mini data center in the middle of that booth. I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but it was running.
We were busy working most of the time. We missed all the good stuff, brother.
But it was fun because it was running all the softwares and connecting to all our machines that were in that space.
Sweet.
So
that's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, and so
Wow.
that's where we're bringing the whole power of Schneider together, right? And because I mean, we do data centers. We have, but it also controls all the IT infrastructure that we had in that booth, which was quite a bit, right? And that was fun for us, being able to show the complete portfolio, as opposed to some shows you go to, you just show your robotics, or you're just showing your PLCs, or you're showing your power equipment. And this one just really brought it all together. As we were talking earlier about IT and OT, that's what we were trying to show, right?
Yeah.
And we're very relevant in this space. And I think many times, that gets overlooked, I think. And when you bring it all together, people, especially, we got a lot of comments that are like, wow. To your point earlier, we didn't realize you guys were, in so many different spaces and what you had to offer. So that, again, that's what we wanted to demonstrate when we went to that show and participating in that. And I think we came across pretty well.
The Schmooze campaign is incredible. First of all, I hope it goes into next year, because I expect to see Sade. All right, in the booth next time. And then the fact that you guys, and this is a bit of a, insider's deal, but the fact that you could set up that level of a booth, where you've got that hybrid IT service solution on site with total mixed assets, all operating and everything, and do that within a week. OMG, man. That must have been an army swarming over that area.
You'd be surprised. We brought it in, and this is one thing we want to demonstrate too. I have a whole, I guess you call them army, but of application engineers who actually will go to the show, make sure all our stuff's set up. Same with the IT infrastructure that we've got there, and then they stay and talk to our customers about what we have to offer. And a big part of that isn't just a product, it's really about the support they get. And so that's what we want to demonstrate too, say, hey, it's just not something, a shiny object. There's a lot of folks behind it that can help you. And that's what we're about.
Yeah, and it's always about solving the application.
Yeah.
We got to speak to customers on their level and deal with, what are the value props that are going to help them. They don't care what we have to offer.
Absolutely.
They care what we can do for them.
Yeah.
So OEM and Robotics are in your title,
Yeah.
right, and in your BU. So what are the top things that Schneider's doing now from your space to help OEMs deal with all the challenges they're doing, faster iterations of development, quicker, more flexible manufacturing, variability of product? What are those top couple things that you're focused on helping these folks?
One great example is we have a digital twin software.
Yeah.
Right. And that's allowing OEMs, and we're trying to encourage OEMs to use that to design their entire and program their prototype before they actually build it. Before, they had to build it. Many times they're still having to build it without using that, right?
Yeah.
Now we're saying design, build, program. Oh, and by the way, once you do build, you can still make adjustments to the program because it's a twin, right, without interrupting what the machine's doing, and that's saving them a tremendous amount of money, right? On top of that, we also talk about the entire. Again, I kind of go back to our entire portfolio, right, and really kind of that one neck to choke, so to speak, that really streamlines their process without having to deal with various different vendors. We pretty much have it all for what they need, right? And we have the support behind it as well. So that saves them time and money, and really kind of lessens the confusion of what they're having to deal with on a daily basis. So I think that's what we really bring to the table for them.
Digital twinning is a big push right now.
And digital twin, and especially the robotic space, is a big push, right? And we have 100%. Many other softwares that we actually have as well to help them in their designing their panels, engineering their panels outside of digital twin. So Schneider as a whole has a whole host of various different software platforms that we can bring to our customers to help them save time, money, and make them, quite honestly, more sustainable if you think about it, because they're not building a prototype, throwing it away, and building another one, throwing it away. They just build it once and they're done.
Right. We've had a number of different discussions here at the show at the Innovation Summit that have talked about digital twinning and digital transformation. Do you mind if I ask you to just take one more step into granularity, because I'm just curious?
Yeah.
But the reason why, everyone's known that being able to model a full production line, full plant line, even an individual work cell is beneficial. You can run your throughput, you can make sure you're meeting your KPIs, you can test out your software. The cost of it has been prohibitive, in a lot of ways, unless you're doing a big greenfield deployment and everything, which obviously is a critically important segment of your growth. Yeah. But we all know we got more factories already built than we're building this year and next year, and et cetera. So are there ways to either, are we going from CAD to twin? And can you talk a little bit about, if you're helping someone design a line, there's a chance that there's going to be equipment in there from other companies. Some might be partners, some may not be. Yeah. Is Schneider doing things that are helping to bring that cost down for digital twinning and making that more exciting for customers?
Yeah, I think if I hear you right, one of our, I guess you call it strategy going forward, is more of an open type of platform. Right, so we can accept third parties into our software. So when you are designing that line, you're not worried about whose PLC or whose conveyor you're using, whose robot are you using, quite frankly. Yeah. Of course, we want it to be ours.
100%.
But that's allowing us to be very flexible in that environment, so to speak. And that really does help the customers out a lot, right? Because so many times when you get proprietary software, it doesn't really work well with others. You're talking about CAD and twinning. CAD kind of fits, we've got it now where it will migrate into a twin.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. So if you got a control panel that's controlling a line, so to speak, you can design that control panel and then have it put into the design of the twinning software that you have. And then all the programming then is done in the twinning software. So again, we're trying to be very flexible in that approach. Sure. And I think that allows customers to be able to make adjustments when they need to, and not having to worry about, I need to jump from this to this to this to this.
I think the audience is happy to hear this, right?
Yeah,
because they may have pre-existing relationships with a specific robotic, and they've got their entire workforce trained on that, and they've got all this massive momentum behind certain product lines. So being open to basically open-sourced digital twinning and simulation environments, I think that's probably a big deal. Especially, people think of Schneider and I could buy darn near everything I need from Schneider, but maybe in these particular cases, we've always been this house or that kind of house.
Right.
Right. But you're saying it's all right.
It's okay.
Yeah, we're still going to help you optimize the solution and get it done.
That goes along with if you've seen our automation expert, the EcoStruxure automation expert.
Right.
It's part of the universal automation approach to being agnostic to whatever's on the factory floor, right? But having that control more PC-based instead of being so dependent on hardware that's out there. So, that I think that's the way things are going more and more. Is you got to have that agnostic approach. I'm sorry, you mentioned yes, they are building factories, but a lot of people now are upgrading their factory. They have to.
Absolutely.
Right? It's more of a brownfield type of world these days, not so much greenfield.
Yep.
And so that's where you see, these more open type of architectures are going to be much more acceptable because, quite frankly, you're not going to want to rip everything out and replace, right? But you do need to modernize, and if you can do that and with the tools that allow you to do that and phase it in, I think that's going to be a huge savings to the customer and a huge advantage as well going forward for them.
Yeah, this discussion is sort of veering towards something I wanted to ask about. Inevitably, I was going to ask you about AI, right? And I attended a number of sessions yesterday involving AI, smaller sessions, and then a fireside AI Insights chat. And they were just super fascinating, and they talked about the importance of a lot of things, right? Data collection, simulation, and things like that. But I guess that openness and collaboration goes both ways, right? So you have obviously a significant partnership with NVIDIA and their Omniverse platform. So can you talk a little bit about that and how that sort of creates new opportunities for customers too?
Yeah, that I can't talk a whole lot about because I'm not as familiar with that. But we are creating these partnerships going forward that, again, we can't do it all, so you do need to create, like with NVIDIA, these partnerships to help us get better at what we're doing. Yeah. And like I said, we are using Copilot by Microsoft for a lot of our AI type of capabilities going forward. And again, we were talking about twinning. We're using Copilot with our twinning software as well and experimenting with that. So I think it's going to be really important because not one company can do it all. And you're going to have to be able to, again, that comes to the openness though, right? Those partnerships only happen when you can work very well together and collaborate well together.
Yeah, well, and in part two of my question anyway was basically like sort of the underlying theme there, and the general assumption is like AI growth is dependent upon data centers, and that's where Schneider comes in. So I've heard this term like AI factories thrown out there, which is really awesome. But yeah, like what's
like AI needs more hype. All right, like we need a new slogan or catchphrase. Okay.
But with the growth and development of AI, and we're speaking to the president of the National Association of Manufacturers next, and they have these policy suggestions out there for when it comes to being a leader in AI. Like, how is that changing the way that data centers are now built and maintained?
I mean, it's interesting when you look at the data center world. In fact, especially on the automation side, they're trying to figure out how to be more automated. In the past, they really haven't, been what you would think they'd be totally automated, right? Because it's IT, it's AI, but you're looking more and more at these things being much more automated, but they have to be extremely energy efficient. And the only way you get energy efficient is you have solutions within the cooling systems to go do that. For example, variable speed drives as an example, right? Yeah. It was funny, I was talking with a customer the other day, and I said, only 30% of the motors in manufacturing have a variable speed drive on them. And this individual said, "That's interesting. I think that's a high percentage." He says,
"Those motors last a long time."
Because I think the percentage of motors with variable speed drives is much lower.
Yeah.
And
honestly, even though there's federal mandates for that.
Well, I know. Yeah. I mean, it was amazing to me. So there's still a lot of room for improvement for energy efficiency. But getting back to data centers, I mean, that's part of it, right? Yeah. They continue as they're growing in size, but they're also creating more heat, right? And that heat, not very efficient because it's requiring much more energy. I mean, they're looking at mini nuclear power plants, to provide power for these. And so that's why it's really important. And that's where I think Schneider's a leader in this space is trying to figure out how do we help, these customers become much more energy efficient. Oh, and on top of that, efficiency is how do we also look at conserving the water that's used for these, because now that's a huge deal, right? For these data centers.
Yeah, people think
water.
of data centers, they think a bunch of servers in a room. They don't realize it's actually a campus environment.
It is,
right, and effective I mean, if we're going to do sustainable power usage, the cooling is, the cooling and the energy consumption of the servers, right? Which there's only certain amounts you can do there. So the real gains comes in on that public infrastructure component.
Oh, well, it is, and honestly, and we kind of come back to my space and OEM. OEMs are providing those cooling units, right? They're providing those liquid cooling is becoming a really big deal, right? And that's 100%. Where the water comes in. So, the OEMs are having to adjust because of this rapid expansion in this space, but they're also trying to figure out, how do we make these things much more efficient and cool them much faster than they have in the past? And so a lot of, it's an exciting, actually, world in the OEM world, because you're starting to see a ton of new startups being generated by the IA, but it's all being driven by the cooling needs of these new data centers that are coming out. So, and then on top of that, you've now got a competition between the data centers and manufacturing, because, oh, by the way, manufacturing uses up 30% of the energy in this country, right? And so it's like, they're still going to need energy, and with us bringing manufacturing back and redoing manufacturing in the U.S. and this and that, so there's a competition for electricity, and so efficiency is the way to go.
Yes,
I didn't have plumbing innovations advancing AI on my bingo card for this year, but it seems like we're there.
It's the little things you don't think about unless you're swimming in that AI ocean all the time.
Oh, well done.
Thank you. I'm going for the bad puns this morning. Coffee hasn't fully kicked in. So we've talked about digital twinning. We've talked about AI now, which is always data-driven, right? Data and model-driven. But I think there's... Folks, again, and also we started this by saying people think of Schneider from hardware and equipment solution space, but data and connectivity are critical, especially in your space where you're helping to use that for maintenance purposes and asset management. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Look, predictive analytics is really huge, right? Being able to...
and Schneider's been doing that a long time.
We've been doing that a long time, but it's improving. Like I said, not to go back on the IA thing, but when you can just say, hey, I'll use Siri, but Siri, what's going on with my motor is, it's starting to use a lot of, what do I have a problem? Yes, your bearings are probably wearing because your energy usage is going up in that. So, that's where we're evolving a lot of our technology, especially in the software world, from a predictive analytics of what's going on. We talked about we're using it on the front end to design, but you also have to use it on the back end to understand what's going on with your facility. And again, in this world of bringing manufacturing in the U.S., we're not the cheapest country in the world, right? So we've got to go figure out how to be a lot more efficient in what we're doing, so that we're not driving costs up because we're not understanding what's going on in our manufacturing facility. So I think that's going to be even more important going forward, is being able to control that environment remotely and understand everything that's going on in your facility, right? And then you can kind of boil it, not even just on the predictive analytics side of things, but think about, being able to isolate certain production lines that are producing better than others. Okay, what's production line A doing better than production line B, and how can I replicate that so I can even drive my cost down even further? So pretty exciting world, and there's a lot of things Schneider's doing along those lines in our different platforms, and we'll continue to do that going forward. That's where we believe it's got to go forward, especially in this country. Again, as manufacturing continues to increase, we've got to bring those costs down.
Yeah, that whole eco portfolio and the different remote management, which is all based on data and connectivity.
Right.
And now it's not just switch gear like it was back in the old days. It's to the individual motors and the robotic work cells and everything on the plant floor. So it's nice that
And again, connectivity is so important, right? And I'll go back to this whole open architecture too. Right? Again, you don't want to rip and replace, but if you can put something on top that connects with everything below, and yet modernize your facility, and that's just a win-win all around.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to ask another question about, maybe it's a topic that you're sick of talking about, but I just, given your title and your company and your position, it's like, I'd love to hear your opinion on humanoids. When will they add value? Where will they add value? What are your general thoughts?
Is that on your roadmap?
Not right now, but I mean, you read about it, everybody reads about what Musk is doing with it, right?
Yeah, amongst many others. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's I think it was at Automate where you saw the was it Boston Scientific dog?
Mm-hmm. All spots are always there. Yeah, although Atlas was there this year, right?
There were some. Well, I don't want to say knockoffs, but there were some.
Oh yeah, those started coming around last year.
But it was really pretty fascinating, and the humanoids were there as well. I mean, it's going to evolve just like anything else. I think it's going to continue to become a thing in the future. One of the things we heard this week from the CEO of FedEx was, one of their biggest things is about loading and unloading trucks.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're looking at humanoids, right? And various technologies to do that, right? And so I think it's just, it's early, but it's definitely going to be evolving as we go forward. And it's more realistic these days. I mean, human robots, as you think from the Jetsons, have been around forever, right?
Yeah.
So, no, but I think now everybody's saying, okay, we got robotics in manufacturing, but now the humanoid robotics, they're starting to look at a lot more than they ever have in the past, and I think you're going to continue to see that trend going forward. And honestly, what's driving a lot of it too, not only just how do they become more efficient, is really labor. I mean, we still got a huge labor shortage in manufacturing.
Oh, 100%.
Right. I mean, I know there's, you read the news and they're saying it's a tough market out there, right, in job market. But honestly, it's tough in the manufacturing because you can't find that skilled labor. We got about 500,000 open positions now.
Welders, assemblers. I mean, you're talking about projected shortages of 17, 23%.
I know.
Into the mid-30s.
When you polled people, they said, well, do we need manufacturing jobs? 80% of people said, yeah. Well, so same people, would you do those jobs? 80% of people said no. And so there's the problem,
but
right?
then you bring the robots in, and they get geeked again.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, okay. Here's a shiny new C-3PO
But what's nice about the robot, it's not replacing jobs. It's actually people are getting reskilled in because those things still need to be maintained. And you can repurpose that role to those job openings that are existing, right?
Yeah.
And it's not replacing jobs. It's actually helping create jobs for folks and fill that void because by 2030 they say there's going to be 2 million manufacturing job openings, right? It's going to go from 500 to 2 million, and it's just
there's a
how do
big
we
numbers
fix that?
back out? Exactly. I mean, there's a big major population thing going on right now.
Is.
Fewer workers to fill the number of jobs we have.
Yeah.
Well, maybe humanoids will be the next thing that people fear, right? So eight or so years ago, it was robots are taking our jobs. Well, it's proven, like you're saying, that's not happening. And then now it's like people are afraid of AI. Well, you're slowly starting to see people realize, actually, AI is really useful.
Yeah.
You look at the jump from even like 3 years ago, generative AI, large language models, tools like ChatGPT, Copilot, people were saying it's not reliable. And now these tools are being integrated into major products from major companies, and maybe that's humanoids, but
they're not going to fear humanoids because humanoids can make you coffee or make the perfect old fashioned. When they nail those two skills, all right, everyone's going to be happy with humanoids.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. Greg, is there anything that we haven't touched on? I know we don't have much more of your time today, so is there anything, any highlights you want to leave the audience with?
No, like I said, it's as we've discussed, ever-changing world. It's an exciting place to be. Jobs aren't. That's the main thing. Jobs aren't going away, right? They're if anything, we need more and more, and we need to invest in not only the STEM programs that are out there, but we've got to get into the technical colleges as well, right? To help create that skill set that's going to be desperately needed. One of the things we were talking about earlier today was that shortage in the robotics field is real, right? And not 3 years ago people weren't going into that field. Now all of a sudden we're like, oh, we got a huge shortage, and we need that know-how to be able to design these types of robotic solutions that are out there. So I think
and services, keep them rolling. They can't fix themselves.
And services too is a big one, right?
Anyway,
and that's a big deal too. So I think that skilled labor is going to be really important. That education we have to get out early into the schools. I sit on the board for First Robotics in North Carolina, and that's one of our main missions. It not only creating a social network for kids, but also introducing these high schoolers to that world of robotics. And it's pretty amazing. We've hired a few of the alumni from that, and because that piqued their interest, and that's a pretty big deal. So
Yeah.
Well,
Robots are cool.
between that message and this whole idea of, it's not an idea, this whole, what you're doing at Schneider with sustainability and becoming the most sustainable company in the world, and essentially trying to protect our planet long term, and
Much appreciated, man.
the generational impact that you guys do.
Definitely.
Thank you. I would offer a thank you and say that if anybody has questions for Greg, I'd encourage them to check out se.com, read the blog, follow them on LinkedIn. They're doing obviously some very remarkable things. Encourage you to keep an eye on them when it comes to the industrial automation space and what they're doing there. It's hugely important. And if you have any questions for Greg, we'd be happy to pass them along. Manufacturing-matters.com. And with that, Greg, thank you so much for taking the time, and thanks everybody for listening. We really appreciate it.
my pleasure. I enjoyed it.
Thanks
Thank you,
again,
guys.
Greg. See you soon.
Yeah,
Thanks.
definitely.